Now, Active Directory is a fantastically mission-critical system. I mean, if you think about it, every single Windows system and the services that reside on top require Active Directory to be in place in order for them to perform their everyday mission. And so doing any kind of maintenance or doing any kind of large-scale changes to Active Directory can be a very hair-raising experience because, well, if you screw up, you've screwed up, and every single thing that relies on it is just simply not going to function. For that reason, Microsoft has made available the ability to create what is called a snapshot of the Active Directory database. These snapshots can be used to just identify what kind of records existed at that period of time. Snapshots can also be used to perhaps test out some possible changes to the database, to just see what's in the database so that you know what you might need to change. Well, the process to create snapshots is fairly non-trivial, so I want to step you through how to create the snapshot, how to list the snapshots, and then how to mount it so that you can see it from within Active Directory users and computers. So let's go through that process here using NTDSUtil. The main reason, at least for our purposes here for the 411, that you would use this is to identify which user accounts may have existed in Active Directory at a previous period of time. Now, the main reason why we're doing this is because a little later on, we'll go through the backup and recovery of Active Directory. And knowing what accounts are there using the old school tools is important for recovering them. Without having this information, perhaps in a snapshot, it can be difficult to figure out which accounts were actually removed inadvertently or maliciously. So you may find yourself actually needing these snapshots to just identify what accounts were possibly removed by some would-be inadvertent right-click and delete error in your help desk. So let's create that first snapshot here. This is a snapshot that, again, is just an instance of the Active Directory that is offline that we can then later mount. Let me run NTDSUtil here, and we're going to go into Snapshot, which is the submenu for snapshots. Here in this location, we then need to activate instance NTDS so that we know we're dealing with the real NTDS instance. And then to create the snapshot, we'll use the create verb, so create. This actually creates that snapshot, which doesn't really take very long because, again, we're creating a snapshot of active data. It is this set right here, this GUID associated with the snapshot we created, that will become important here in just a minute. And in fact, you can use the command here, I believe it's list all, to list the different snapshots that have been created on Active Directory. Now you'll notice here that I've actually created 3 snapshots in preparing for what we're looking at here. One at 8:10 this morning, one at 10:04, and one at 10:18. It's this third item down here that's a snapshot we want to take a look at here. And let me actually copy that to the clipboard so that we can then mount that snapshot and then make use of it here in the variety of Active Directory tools that we have. In order to do it, I need to do mount and then the GUID. So let me paste in the GUID here. And that will end up mounting this to the location here called $$snap, a long series of numbers, and then volume $. This is actually a location here on the hard drive. And in fact, if I come here to Explorer, we can see that in fact we have this now as a mounted, more or less, file folder here in the system. If you've ever dealt with mounting VHD files or mounting virtual hard disks, this is a perhaps ancient way in which this was accomplished in the days before virtualization. So what you're seeing here is the equivalent of what we're used to seeing these days with VHDs. But in fact, it's fairly ancient technology here. If I double click, you'll see that we can then drill down into, for example, Windows and then NTDS down here, and then ultimately to the ntds.dit file that we'll need to access and then later mount so that we can make use of it. We do have another command, however, that we need to run in order to get that mounting complete. That command is outside of NTDSUtil, so let me go ahead and back out of it. I'll just quit there. And then the command we need to use from this point is DSA Main. This DSA Main command can be used to create what is effectively a miniature, also simultaneously running copy of the Active Directory database that we can then use and interact with. In fact, it's kind of cool in the way it works. Let's go DSA Main and then db path. And it's here where I need to plug in the path to that ntds.dit file. So c:// and then this location here that I need to reproduce there. C:// that location / Windows, NTDS, and then ntds.dit. So that's the location we looked at just a second ago. We also, when we accomplish this, have to identify a new LDAP port that we would use for this little miniature server that we're building. Let me do LDAP port, and then I need to give it a number. I don't know, 25,000 is the available new LDAP port. Remember that Active Directory responds as an LDAP server, effectively. And so we are now creating a simultaneously concurrently running instance of Active Directory that runs off of this snapshot and that responds or is listening off of LDAP port 25,000. Notice here how when we create this, that effectively we've got a functioning process that's running. We're not given the prompt back. So in order for us to be able to use this, we need to then open up one of the tools that we want to work with Active Directory and then point it into the correct location. Let's, for example, use the tool ADUC, so Active Directory Users and Computers, is a tool that we want to coordinate or access this snapshot that we just created. Now, by default, we're running with the active instance of Active Directory. So this is the actual running AD instance that's powering our domain. But what we need to do is actually repoint Active Directory Users and Computers here to this new instance on this new LDAP port that we just created. Let us change our domain controller here. And as you'll notice, we have our dccompany.pri, our rodc.company.pri, and then we can also then choose an existing domain controller or AD/LDS instance, which, as you'll see down here, we need to enter in with both the name and the port number. So DC:25,000. That should connect us up to the running instance of Active Directory that's online and currently running in that command prompt that we created a second ago. If I hit OK here, well, now you can see we're now working with Active Directory Users and Computers. We're now connected up to that snapshot. Again, the most important point here is that these snapshots provide a way to see what Active Directory looked like at some point in the past. As you can imagine, if someone went through and deleted a bunch of objects, the likelihood is that you probably don't know which objects got deleted, particularly in the case where they were maliciously deleted. And so you may need these snapshots as a mechanism to figure out exactly what got removed so that as we go through the next step here in backing up and recovering Active Directory, you know exactly which commands to run to restore those lost user and computer accounts. So you can, as you can see down here, just click through your usual organizational units, identify the user accounts and what the computer counts are, and use this as a mechanism, again, to see backwards in time.